also to make sure that we have e-portfolios to evaluate in every platform that's being used in the project. One of the other things that is uniquely important about our project, we're the only project that is analyzing the use of multiple portfolio platforms in this institution. Well,
What were the
institution.
final results of that selection process? What were how many different?
Chantel has that document. Yeah, actually, that document is on Blackboard under the, what is it, project
Information?
information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what we've got is 2 using Digication, 2 using TaskStream. And what's nice about that is both of those pairs are at the same university. Because one of the things I would highly suggest is that in using whatever platform you're using, you work to some degree in conjunction with somebody else using it. It adds a greater degree of security, I
Sure.
think.
Yeah. Good.
Other people are kind of helping you out because they're encountering the same thing. The most popular selection wound up being Google Sites.
No, interesting. Yeah, that's what Clemson used. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, you know, the big surprise for Clemson was when they found out.
Yeah. How do we collect the data?
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Of course, you know, when you're.
They had in fact, their computer science department created a program
Exactly.
to do it. You know.
Now, and see, that raises some interesting institutional questions because, you know, were we to run into something like that and implementing a system-wide e-portfolio platform, I think A&T would be in fairly good shape. I mean, because of the nature of the university, you've got, you know, a very, very robust, you know, kind of science, tech, math, stat area. Now, UNCG would be in huge trouble. I mean, we can barely maintain Blackboard, you know.
Yeah.
We have one
Right.
half of a person maintaining Blackboard.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. It's not probably too dissimilar.
And we have and the tech support is atrocious. And so, you know, that's another issue. We have a few people using WordPress. The thing is, we also have some project affiliates. They're not actually project associates, I don't know. They're not officially part of the grant, but they're implementing portfolios, and they really wanted to kind of be in our network of discussions and access the resources that we have. Periodically, I will be bringing some of those people in during our pedagogy meetings to share their experiences.
Okay.
Turns out our nursing program at UNCG has opted to go with ePortfolios as their professional credentialing tool for their clinical nursing program.
Right.
And so that's an interesting perspective kind of on the advanced end, making that college to career transition. And incidentally, that's what the Board of Governors is really interested in. That's why the ears perked up when they heard about e-portfolios. That's kind of speaking their language.
Right.
They're hoping, and I think actually they might have something here, where they're hoping that if there is a uniform effort toward e-portfolios, we can pitch that as an advantage of a UNC education, because if you get your degree from UNC school, you automatically have something to show for it that can be used, you know, to market yourself to employers. And you know, that's kind of the world.
We thought, Scott and I talked about that for here, something like education that would be used for tenure promotion,
Yeah.
you know, as
I might
opposed to
actually
that
have
damn binder. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we put that on Blackboard now.
Yeah.
And Blackboard, in fact, I literally just came in from a P&T meeting. And the thing is, there's some advantages to it, but the structure of Blackboard is such that it's so hard to find stuff.
Right.
Things are buried almost layers deep.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you don't get a feel for the candidate. It's
Yeah.
just a collection of documents.
Right.
And I just, you know, it just would seem to me that you get a better sense of what the person's about if you give them more
Elaborate
more
capability or something.
options.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of interesting things here. We're talking about this in our department, maybe, of revisiting the possibility of having a formal capstone course. And they get introduced to e-portfolios in the basic speech communication course. And a few artifacts they put in there. And then, you know, they would have various other courses that enable them to collect materials for the e-portfolio. And then in the capstone, they complete it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then they have the kind of, meta-analysis of it.
Mhm.
So, there are a lot of possibilities for its use, so that it's kind of fruitful, we're looking at it.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna start kind of with relatively modest expectations with the meetings on e-portfolio evaluation practice.
Mhm.
And I would say for this first one coming up next week, probably if everybody can get through 2 of those,
Mhm.
then what will happen is there'll be, some discussion of that, and we'll start on that road of getting into that cycle of evaluation. That is absolutely critically important, because that's one of the most important pieces of data we promised to the GA.
Mhm.
Now, that being said, one just little housekeeping thing, next week, even though there is that session, I will not physically be here. By an interesting coincidence, I will be in Chapel Hill
Yeah.
for a general
Oh,
education
yeah.
council meeting,
Mhm.
actually with Scott
Yeah.
and GA. So if there's anything you would like me to convey to the folks that are sponsoring this project,
Mhm.
they're receptive ears for that.
Right.
And they will be inquiring about, how's it going, and,
Mhm.
what do you see as challenges and all that. However, in my absence, I have left this in the capable hands of Chantel,
Of course.
and what she'll be doing is kind of being a facilitator for the discussion,
Mhm.
taking notes, et cetera. We also already have got the first video edition of this semester to our collection of sessions. So you should be able to access that UNCG session
On YouTube.
now.
Yes, I'm trying to log on to the wireless internet, but it won't let me because I don't have a password.
Oh, yeah, right.
And
Yeah,
I've
we
been
took
spending
care of
time
that last
looking.
year.
We found a solution to that, but it's something it's not totally intuitive.
No.
We'll have to write that down. That's one of these things where.
Yeah,
And
that's
by the
what
way,
I was
the-
on my phone for, trying to find the
guest access and
password.
everything doesn't change.
No.
So I might be able to get that to you, like if I try to log on, it might have done an autosave on mine.
It remembered the username, but whenever I put it in, it doesn't, it keeps saying it's invalid.
Right.
That's what I've been on my phone for the entire time.
I can see some of this.
So anyway, the videos are being updated, so please do see those. And every time Chantel uploads a video and she's confirmed that it's up there, she will notify everybody and send the link, as well as linking to it through Blackboard.
Gotcha.
And of course, we'll do the same thing here, where we'll have a record of these sessions that UNCG
Mhm.
people can see as well.
So, that would be under technology. And that would be further under accounts. Yeah, it's somewhere in there.
Quite a few layers in it.
Hmm?
It's always quite a few layers in it.
Yeah, it is.
But the other thing that we were particularly interested, I'm particularly interested in doing today, and of course, don't let my plans for agenda restrict us, because if there are other things, let me know.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna wait to get into that deeper discussion once Lady Z comes in, because I've decided that I think that's kind of an exotic title.
Mhm.
Those that can have, kind of sounds like Lady Gaga.
Yeah, right.
But to find out a bit about, where you are about your decision-making, of what kinds of things students would be putting in. One thing that we talked about this morning at UNCG, some of this just seems so fundamental, it might escape our attention. It's really important. Checking out how many different artifacts are people asking for.
Uh-huh.
What might influence that? What kinds of things are you looking for? And one of the things I found out that these commercial platforms will ask for, like
It's,
education.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
It's lowercase,
Mm-hmm.
guest,
Mm-hmm.
0801.
Okay.
Does that work?
That's the username?
Password.
Okay. Let's see.
I would have guessed the username would be
Mhm.
guest.
Yes.
It did.
Excellent.
Okay, please, with a permanent marker.
Yeah, I'm going to put that
That's
in.
for August, so we're good with that till October, actually. They won't change it again to October.
Okay. Yeah,
In which case, it just takes a minute to look it up.
and I,
You have to get on the intranet, you log into the intranet, and then they tell you.
okay. And I will, like, keep that right.
I just put it in
beside
my phone.
My computer and everything, okay. So, but one of the questions, that was a very concrete question, was decisions that go into, like, the numbers of artifacts. The previous week session at UNCG was then, okay, aside from the artifacts themselves, the work products. What are you going to ask from students? How do you ask students about the framing of them, right? How should they be contextualizing there? How do you ask them to reflect on this? Some of the initial answers are
I'm
already
texting Zave, I'm not sure where the hell she could be. but-
are on the discussion boards.
Mhm.
Well, particularly that last discussion board that I'm begging, pleading, I mean, on the ground, you know, at your feet. Please post on that first discussion board on the Blackboard site. We already have a really interesting mix of people who have posted there. Some who aren't even in the project, but they're experimenting pretty aggressively with e-portfolios in the honors program at UNCG, Lloyd International Honors College. And so some of those somewhat more autonomous units that might be able to give us some really good insights on this.
Right.
And actually, one of the the course that they're piling that in is their first year honors.
Good afternoon.
Hey!
I just texted you.
Sorry, I didn't see it.
Now the party can really start.
I didn't get it. My class, they took the full time, so
Wow.
I didn't think they would for peer review, but they did. You didn't text me. What did you say?
Must have not got it yet.
Okay.
Oh, whatever.
Actually, past few times I've emailed something to myself at UNCG. It's taken 2 days to get there.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
I mean, I could have carried it there manually
Right.
and back several times.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the things that we looked at last time was this whole idea of the interface between the portfolio component and the rest of the course components.
Mhm.
So anyway, to review some things that we looked at, first a structural thing. We're getting, this semester, we're doing a very lockstep kind of rigorous structure in terms of what we're covering in each of our sessions.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to send up the calendar on this. The system is this. On alternate weeks, starting now, we have our discussions that focus on e-portfolio pedagogy, okay? And I will not use the phrase best practice, but this is where we share our experiences, we do troubleshooting, we sometimes will have guests dealing with e-portfolios. What we encountered as news of our projects started circulating through UNCG, out of the woodwork, there are all of these like programs.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is, so they're gonna be taking this very seriously.
Right.
And we also have the person who is our Faculty Teaching and Learning Center Fellow for speaking and writing. And so she actually is going to be conducting various workshops at UNCG. If any of them are relevant to us, I will make sure to share that information with you. So there are a lot of, and I got contacted by the Public Health Department because they are requiring an e-portfolio for all of their majors. So they're actually infusing e-portfolio components throughout their major curriculum. Now, obviously, that's beyond the scope of what you can look at in the project, but it gives a good read on what you might have to do to help students understand that when they take a course, they're going to be doing an e-portfolio. I mean, I have it in my syllabus, but I mean, who reads syllabus? Okay, so anyway, that is every other week, and then either even weeks or odd weeks, however you want to do it. And then the other week, see, peer pressure.
Oh, no. It's not.
I only realized, I was telling Chantal on the way over here, I only realized at the end of a 3-hour promotion and tenure committee
Yeah,
And there was not even any question about that. I mean, this candidate, so the credentials are through the roof. I mean, this person's in a sale, right? They're like workshopping, you know, do you want the or a in the review of
Oh,
scholarship?
jeez, yeah.
Well, anyway, but the, and I realized I basically, I had like one little container of yogurt all day long, and, you know, I'm just like,
Mhm.
and I woke up with sinus headache too, so it's not helping, you know, not
No, you need to.
I had to cancel a doctor's appointment because I felt too bad to go to the doctor.
Mhm.
What does that say?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's too weird, but anyway.
So,
So if I'm kind of out of it, that's why. I experimented with a headache relief shot from Goodies.
Hmm,
Because I figure if NASCAR drivers use it,
Yeah,
it's
right.
good enough for me.
must be.
In the alternate weeks, what we're doing is a real nuts and bolts task that is essential to the project. And that is we're actually going to be physically reviewing sample e-portfolios using our modified value rubric. We'll actually be doing this the old-fashioned way because we don't have that many people, you know, of collecting the completed rubrics. Chantal and I will do not just the statistical analysis of them, but take a look, are there certain patterns emerging? Are certain people outliers in certain times and all that? And their face-to-face meetings will be discussing that, working through that, so that we hopefully will move toward a greater degree of consensus in the use of these rubrics. Our first session of that is going to be next week. Now, as it happens, next week, I'll be in Chapel Hill, meeting with the GA and the Gen Ed Council, along with Scott, about, among other things, what we're doing. So that's going to be facilitated by Chantel. At least a few days before each of those sessions, I'll be emailing to both cohorts at both universities links to the sample e-portfolios we'll be looking at. And so if you wanted to, work ahead a little bit, then
Okay, no, I wasn't watching your cook, just making sure you're paying attention.
you can't. You can't help it. I mean, it's chocolate chip, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you can't help it. You can't help it kind of.
I just ate a bunch of these grapes. My wife keeps getting these grapes are like, they taste like different things. Like this one grape she got, they taste like cotton candy.
She got them from Fresh Market, probably.
Are you sure she's not getting like Dippin' Dots instead?
No,
They're
those are seasonal
little
grapes.
grapes.
They're seasonal
What
grapes.
is this?
Yeah, they're grapes and they actually taste like cotton candy. They're
Yeah, I saw
hybrid
them at
grapes.
Fresh
They
Market.
figured out how to, make these hybrid grapes that taste like different things.
Did you
Like
ever wonder
the ones
what
I just
kind-
ate taste like one of those freeze pops, like a grape freeze pop.
Wonder what kind of genetic modification
Yeah.
technology is being used on that?
Yeah.
But, so anyway, you can imagine some laboratory. But what we'll do in those sessions is, at first, we're gonna be doing most of our actual evaluating everything face-to-face and together. As we can start evaluating more quickly, we'll be able to increase the numbers of portfolios that we're expected to work through in each session. And we'll tend to reduce the quote in-class evaluation time and instead concentrate on working through whatever patterns Chantal and I are noticing in the rubrics, in the numbers. Our ambition is pretty high with that, and that is what we are seeking. And I don't know if this is even going to work out. I mean, it will be useful for GA to know whether we can reach some degree of convergence, and if so, to what degree. But we're looking at convergence on two levels. First is the macro level of just the overall cumulative score, okay? And where each portfolio fits as a whole on that 0 to 4 scale. I mean, technically it's 1 to 4, but you can rate a 0 if it isn't the minimum standard. Where things get really tricky and challenging is we're also seeing to what degree we can converge on the subscales. Now, AAC&U, of course, claims, oh, well, hey, these subscales are just gonna line up real nicely. We'll see. And we'll see how close we can come to that. But that's gonna be the regular rotation, right? Pedagogy session, evaluation session. Right? Until the point where we've gotten as far as we can go with the evaluations, and that would be something like a number of sessions of working through sample portfolios. And let's say we've worked through, 15 sample e-portfolios, and we're either consistently getting, results within a certain range, or they're still all over the place.
Now, what kind of data keeping should Zeba be doing with her implemented e-portfolio?
Right. Well, first of all, any sorts of instructions that you have, and this goes from the big level, just how you're talking about the portfolios and syllabus, to instructions for constructing the portfolio itself or particular entries into the e-portfolio. Please post those as attachments on the discussion board on Blackboard. I've put it as the very first one, so it's real easy to
I don't know
find.
if I still have access, I have to double check, because I know
You
the
should.
little worm thing that was going out, I'm not sure if
Yeah,
it.
you should be okay.
Okay.
Because I actually, Chantel and I went in and we did find that 2 people were purged. I think actually you might have been purged for a while. So,
Okay.
once he was purged, you felt better after that, and so,
Right.
full body cleans.
Exactly.
But that's one thing we did look at, because we asked, and we called up Amanda and said, we're concerned, and she said, okay, that's what happened.
Right.
But everybody else that's in the project is okay,
So,
because you're still in the class roster.
yeah. So post instructions that go on the announcements and that's on the.
Blackboard, yeah.
On Blackboard.
Excuse me, discussions, yeah. The mind is starting to go.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is if you don't feel like going through those steps, feel free to just email that stuff to me or to Chantel, and we'll be happy to put it on there for you. And that may be easier because we're on there so much, it's just sort of instinctive that we know where to go with stuff.
All right, so let me clarify, so I'm posting discussions that will go on the platform, or am I
No.
posting instructions?
On the
Yeah.
discussion board, you'll be posting the instructions
instructions.
you've
Right.
given students regarding the e-portfolio,
Yeah,
as well as perhaps how we do for composition, the assignment
Yeah, got it,
descriptions
got it.
with the SLOs and all
Okay,
that. Those that are associated with artifacts in the portfolio that they'll be putting in.
okay, that makes sense.
and of course, what's particularly useful for that is, I noticed we're already in the UNCG cohort starting to borrow language and stuff that other people are using that's a good description of the sorts of things we want to do. And quite frankly, from the documents in the discussion board, I want to emphasize, we should aggressively steal from each other. I mean, that's why it's there, it's a common resource.
Right.
And if there's some way, something one person is doing that can help others, I mean, that's why they do it.
Now, when are we supposed to?
Have you
implement
implemented yours?
Okay, now that's actually something that we discussed a bit today in a couple of different contexts.
Okay.
Implementation timetable. Both the blessing and the curse of this project is that the GA made no stipulations on anything except due dates for reporting. I am finding that depending on the course, people are implementing this at different points in the course. And there are different philosophies of doing this, and one's not necessarily better than others, whatever fits. Some of our folks are they did this from day one. Students were already starting to put things in the portfolio, and they got their splash page that introduces them and all that. In other cases, and this is particularly the case for those of us who are using these commercial platforms, Education and Task Stream, there is some upfront setup work. It's not terribly complicated, but what I found with my course, because it is a really challenging advanced level survey of theory class, that I need to get students a little more acclimated with the material and the level at which they're needing to think. And the e-portfolio is being implemented as kind of a way to synthesize that knowledge. And so both in my section and also in our online first-year writing courses, the students are kind of being introduced to e-portfolios close to about midway through the semester. And then they are kind of routing work projects into that e-portfolio. Our speech communication people are approaching it that way too a bit. And of course, part of that is because the nature of that course is so backloaded. You know, you have to kind of give them almost everything before they can do anything. And so with them, they have a much more media-heavy content. You may wind up with that too. And so, you know, they're doing it about the last half of the semester. The key thing is, and really the only stipulation is that the e-portfolios need to be implemented in your course or courses this semester.
Okay, great. So I have a request, if there's any way to expedite.
You bet.
Within the next 4 weeks, we're going to be approaching our professional writing series, and I think in order to convert the e-portfolio to something that they can utilize, you know, further on, once we get acclimated to it, I'd like to use it for that. So that would be maybe October week 3. See if I can get a date for you, if I can get it set
Sounds
up.
like right after a fall break. That's a pretty good break.
Yeah, if I can get myself set up, and then, let me just look at the calendar really quickly. This would be October, the week of the 20th. If I can get everything set up, then I can have them do the final stretch of their research essay in addition to their professional writing in terms of CV, resume, and a short bio. And all that can be featured.
Which platform are you using?
Education.
Oh, okay, right, oh, yeah, right, right.
You are too.
Yeah.
Daniel is as
Okay,
well.
yeah.
I think.
Oh, and one thing I mentioned just before you came in is, in our discussion, actually this morning, UNCG, one of the things that's gonna be really helpful is, if possible, to work relatively closely with whoever else is using your platform.
Sure.
It really, I found that I'm doing TaskStream, and one of our English instructors is doing TaskStream. And honestly, if nothing else, it just adds kind of a psychological feeling of comfort that you're not in it all alone.
Right.
And it's really useful to kind of understand, okay, how do we adapt this to meet individual needs, but what common elements do we have? One of the cool things you can do, and because we actually specifically going to ask TaskStream to do this, and Education can do it too, is to provide each other, well, depending on the platform, it's called something different, but where each of you can access the ability to assess work products from each other's sections. Because this is something that we're gonna be doing toward the end of the project anyway, once we, cross my fingers, have intercode reliability on the rubrics. We're gonna change the sample e-portfolios we're evaluating to the real deal of each other's classes. Although that's not mandatory in the project, I think it's gonna be pretty important to have that kind of in vivo experience of actual e-portfolios that are coming out of our project, rather than these kind of, disembodied sample things from Education, TaskStream, what have you. And in our sample evaluations, we're gonna be evaluating portfolios on all the different platforms. This is something that none of the other projects are equipped to do on e-portfolios, the other 3 grant sites. They all took a very different approach. I mean, they just said, we're all choosing the same platform and we're implementing it. And in some ways, I almost wish we went that way, because it would have simplified the front-end process. But I think it's very important to understand what goes into choosing the platform in the first place, and to really delve into that. That's another thing that we're doing a little bit differently. But there really aren't any stipulations about timing. I mean, we're not trying to have everyone synchronized in terms of the timing of the actual implementation of the e-portfolio system. We will be, and as a matter of fact, right before this, Chantal and I were adding questions, we will be administering questionnaires in our classes. Well, not in the classes, it's a link to Qualtrics surveys, right? So what Chantal and I are going to be doing is having a semi-pretest, because again, we don't know where people are in e-portfolios, but I think it's early enough to where we have a pre-test and a post-test of the students and of the faculty. Now, of the people who are actually instructing these courses, what we're especially interested in is not just your survey responses, but we're going to be doing individual and focus group interviews as well. And one of the things that I will do in that process is we'd also like to go to you and say, okay, what sorts of questions would you recommend that we include, particularly in those focus group sessions, that are going to be helpful for us to understand how this is working? You know, and so that the nature of the focus groups is going to be somewhat open-ended because we really want to allow people to elaborate on things. I think we can in the culture, so that even though it's open-ended.
Another question, so after we get access to the education platform, how long do we have after the semester to have access?
Yeah, good question. Oh, yeah, yeah. We're in the driver's seat with that.
Okay. Just in case we wanted to maybe utilize some of the instructions or some of the examples for future
I
classes.
hear that. Actually, education accommodates very easily. TaskStream is not easy to deal with. And part of it is because they are this like monster company, and in their mind, they're kind of in control of the terms. It's an interesting contrast in dealing with these vendors. I think it would probably be wise just to tell both of these vendors, let us retain, and the students too, because they may well forget to save the stuff
That's
on
what
their
I'm
own.
saying, I may have them email me as well. So I
Exactly,
wanna make sure.
and I wanna make sure that we can deliver on, you know, promising students, hey, you know, you can download this stuff, and it might not be the exact format and everything, but you've got the content. I think it would be appropriate to ask for access through the end of the calendar year, frankly. You know,
Yeah, I would agree.
I think so.
I mean, I think you might run into some issues going over into the next calendar year, but I really think that would make sense. Particularly if we need to go back in and look at some stuff for the final report. And that final report is gonna be thoroughly workshopped with everybody to make sure that, you know, we're thoroughly capture everybody's different experiences in all different courses.
Because my thing is, what I would do is probably just, if we had disabled student users, we would still have access through the calendar year, so we just let them know, hey, look, after this amount of time, if you haven't saved this, if you want to download it, do it before this time, and then we have our time to just assess and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I do worry that if we establish a cutoff point, it's like, you know, the end of exams or something, well, we might be finished with stuff. Frankly, I'm not sure that would be the case. I mean, we might be finished, but you don't want to arbitrarily tell students. I mean, I'm already kind of concerned about, depending on the student environment you're working with, who knows, there might be some blowback from students on, I don't see portfolios, you know.
Oh, they won't mind.
So,
I think they'll actually value it more,
no, so.
because they don't have to print things out and construct the actual, you know, binder and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll value it.
So, yeah, I'll just say, and thanks for clarifying that, because what I can do is contact both education and TaskStream and say, by the way, we didn't specify this, but here's gonna be the end date. Okay. A few more specific things, kind of micro issues that come up in the last two sessions of the UNCG group. And by the way, we've got the YouTube video up for our session last week
Okay.
at UNCG. Chantal's making it a regular practice to email everybody when she has a new video up. She'll notify the whole group with a direct link to it, and it'll be posted on Blackboard if somebody doesn't get to it till later. Now, what are some of the things that came up on kind of more specific instructional level in the trenches, right? Some interesting questions about how big is the seed portfolio going to be? You know, how many work products do you have in there? Now, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to that.
Yeah.
But the question is, you know, about how many things do we need to really be an authentic reflection of the student's development? And that's a huge question for me, because I've got close to 40 students in this particular section. And although I'm only doing a summative assessment of the e-portfolio, You know, I also want it to be something that gives enough, just be kind of social sciencey, enough data points to do what we are claiming an e-portfolio does.
Mm.
So I'm just curious if anybody, like, has any ideas about that, or has,
Well,
you know,
I
kind of
wrote down
experience that?
some quick ideas.
Mhm.
So, if I am taking it on after fall break, which would be October 20th, around that time, then I would just have them revise essays 1 and 2 as they saw fit, because those would already be graded. And then essay 3 would be just a proposal research, just to get them prepared for the research paper in 101. The short bio on the front of education, so that we know, a little bit about you, which kind of goes hand in hand with their first essay. Resume, cover letter, and then just a reflection to end the course. So that's my idea, for kind of that holistic portfolio. And I'll give them from the 20th through probably the week after Thanksgiving to put all of the items on there.
Okay, so,
That's my
so
idea.
you're basically just saying, okay, here's your block of time
Yep.
for assembling this, and, you know, of course, with the usual warnings, don't do it all the night before.
Well, we'll do like checkpoints probably.
Okay, you do, okay.
Throughout,
Okay.
and what I mean by that is we'll just have, the things they can do quickly, like a short bio.
Mhm.
They're doing intellectual autobiographies first, so we'll just take a portion of that, where they talk about their major and who they are, and their, status. We'll put it on there first, and then when we get to October 20th, we're working on resume cover letters, so they'll have time to revise it, but we'll have those documents completed. Then essays, 2 and 3, they can upload as they create the revisions for those. So we'll have the revisions reviewed in some way, maybe with a conference in class. And then the last thing would be the reflection. So that would be done probably December 3rd or 4th, and that's kind of my timetable. Because grades are due like December 8th, or not December 8th, they're due the following week, December like 16th, but I'm gonna be done like the 8th.
You guys have more time here than we do.
Yeah. Yeah, like the 16th.
Yeah, I think that'd be substantive enough, I think there's.
Oh, yeah.
That's a plan.
Yeah, and part of it is because I'm very curious as to, you know, what some kind of expectations are of timelines that people are using,
Mhm.
because, although I wanted to kind of gradually introduce e-portfolios, I mean, on Tuesday I go into class and I do the thing, okay, you see these comments about e-portfolios on the syllabus, you know, on individual assignments, I say, you know, this is eligible for inclusion in your e-portfolio, and that actually is something at the last week's UNCG session, we talked about it, is this whole idea of making sure you tag assignment, you know, such a 21st century term, tag assignments that, you know, this is something you can include in your e-portfolio. And one of the reasons that helps is because, although ultimately it's a student's decision many times what to put in, this kind of gives them cues to bear in mind the e-portfolio connection to the assignment. And also, it doesn't place on them the entire burden of making decisions about what to include or not to include, a sort of structured freedom, you know? But, yeah, I mean, it's somewhat similar to what our English instructor and what I are doing. Yeah. We also have some vigorous work in this area. These folks have actually been researching it for our first year experience, the Foundations for Learning at UNCG. And this is for, it's basically like a first year experience for undecided majors, which are now called, exploratory majors.
Right.
Yeah. And the two people that are involved in that, because one of the things I'm hoping to do is make some interinstitutional connections with people in similar areas. But we've got two really, really strong people in that. We've got like these conferences and portfolios in that context and all that. Brandy Probst and Jolanda. So anyway, we've got a really good pair of folks there, and you can check out their contact information and stuff, and vice versa. You know, for our speech communication people, we have the dynamic duo of Jim Simon and Jessica McCall. And they're both teaching the basic course. Interestingly enough, some of those are online sections, fully online. And so they're really good to have dialogues with. Yeah. In fact, a good document that we can post there, it's in there, but you gotta dig to find it now, is just a list that has the following information on all the participants, which platform they're using, we've already got that. If you could add to that the course, that'll be really
The
useful.
only thing I don't do the reflection piece is the choices. You wanna work in some way in which they can kind of choose
Which one?
what writing is representational of that.
Out of the essays, they were going that too, and I think most people picked the second one, because, well, the first one, the second one is argumentative, it's a lot more technical. So,
Well, I mean, just put it out there, it'd be interesting to see.
all right, so I'll make it optional, I guess, between the
Yeah.
essays, which ones they want to include.
Yeah, because my students have, well, there are 3 pure essays, and then there's another, and all these are minor research based, like maximum 4 pages, a couple of sources. Then they have a paper that is same length and research requirement, but it's part of the multidimensional assignment where they select a theory, a communication theory. They have to do a PowerPoint presentation or something like that, Prezi, whatever. Make an oral presentation to class, and they're basically kind of, I tell them, think of yourself as team teaching the material with me, okay? And then they do that companion paper, and I say that any of those components are eligible for consideration. So, with those 3 short papers and anything from that kind of combination assignment, theoretically, they could have as many as 6 items to choose from. But I told them, I said, if you want to use the video, you're responsible for recording it and editing it and everything. So far, I haven't had any takers on that. Now, the reflection piece, obviously they'll be asked to reflect on each of the entries in the portfolio. But the cumulative reflection, I actually decided to make that the final exam. That rather than just a standard essay exam or something, synthesize the knowledge and explain, what, with evidence from the e-portfolio, what kind of development are they showing in critical thinking and communication related to the subject matter? Right? And I might put some sub-prompts in there, and that's a, good sort of thing.
Sure.
These are
us
sorts
a
of things we
guide.
can workshop of, say, how has your mastery of the conceptual vocabulary developed, right? What about your usage of scholarly research? And just kind of some focal points there, because if you don't do that, you'll probably just get everybody saying, oh, I learned so much, and
Yeah, right.
I'm so much better now than I was before.
I'm so happy I had Dr. Schwartzman as my.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly.
I gotta run though, that's my time to go.
Yeah, we probably need to start wrapping this up, so. But anyway, the timing of the session might look a little bit weird to people, but the 2 most available times were 3 to 4 to 4 to 5, and so we figured, okay, since they're back to back, and between those 2 time slots, we should be able to get everybody, we just sort of straddle those 2. And on some occasions, if the discussion gets more involved and vigorous, we can always kind of lean over maybe a few minutes on the back end of that.
Right. 4 o'clock is better for me though, because I have class usually
Yeah.
on Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 3 to 3:50, so.
Yeah, Fridays are generally bad for me, but, rearrange some things. I'll be here for most,
Terrific.
But then, of course, I'll be in touch. And Daniel, I'm Jason.
Like, do you know
I-
what?
There you go.
Yeah, and I said, we met before, I think, but never really,
Yeah, I mean, I saw you a little bit last semester.
yeah, that's right.
And
So-
you're in the English department.
Correct. So with, your last name is?
Richards.
Richards, yeah. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm gonna create a listserv, I think, of any remaining cohort,
Oh, that's
members
what
here.
Joy emailed me, she said it was too short notice for her, short
Yeah.
notice, so she can make it,
All right.
yeah.
And that way I can kind of field questions they have to you too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know.
And it might make it a little bit easier than kind of everybody separately trying to think of separate anything. We can pull all that stuff together.
Yeah.
And it might make it easier to kind of disseminate answers to things and all that.
Yeah.
You know the interesting connection here that Daniel might have.
No,
Right. You wanna admit it, or?
I was actually in Dr. Schwartzman's argumentation class.
Oh, wow, yeah.
MCG. Did we decide it was spring '85?
You didn't have to mention the year, did you?
Oh my God.
damn.
But you could have kind of been discreet and go, you know, a few years ago.
And you know, the
That
really,
was a few.
you know, the really funny thing, I didn't mention this to you at the time, but when we were having lunch at Saffron, there was a
Mhm.
guy that came in who's now a minister. And he was actually in my 105 class when I was a teaching assistant.
Oh, wow.
So we had like 3 generations.
I know, we did.
No, I mean, it's weird how long it takes.
Wow.
Oh, geez, I'll never need anything desperate.
So anyway, that's
Here's my card.
kind of
Do
how
me a
we're
favor and
gonna be
email me.
moving this semester.
That way I have, you know, all your contact information and I can create that little group.
Yeah, we liked it.
And that way we can ensure, you know, more regularity, consistency on our end too.
Okay.
Sure.